were you at 10 p.m. on election day? A year ago this week. I was in the office and the TV screen with the exit poll was a long way away, and suddenly seemed even further away as the words hung Parliament drifted across the open plan desks. Once again, most of the opinion polls had got it wrong. 2015, the 2016 referendum, and now this. Because I take the view that opinion polls are the worst way of finding out what people think, apart from all the others. I had got it wrong too. I assumed that Theresa May was heading for an increased majority, even as I tried to keep an open mind to the possibility of a different outcome. The important thing about mistakes is to learn from them, so what have we learned in the year since that shock? This week I took part in 2 attempts to learn the lessons. One was a conference organized by Professor Patrick Sturges of the University of Southampton, to consider a report on opinion polling by a committee of the House of Lords. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau meets with British Prime Minister Theresa May at the G7 Leaders Summit in La Malbaie, Quebec. Brexit Secretary David Davis, right, and International Trade Secretary Liam Fox leave 10 Downing Street. Prime Minister Theresa May held an emergency Brexit cabinet meeting in an attempt to resolve tensions over the UK's Irish border plan. Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May welcomes Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Downing Street. British fashion designer and environmental campaigner, Dame Vivienne Westwood delivers an anti-fracking letter to 10 Downing Street in London. New images issued by the Grenfell Tower inquiry of the kitchen in Flat 16 where the fire started on June 14 last year. 71 people were killed after the fire tore through the housing block in Kensington. Bishop of Southwark Christopher Chesson and members of the public attend a commemoration service on the first anniversary of the London Bridge terror attack. Britain held a national minute of silence on June 3, 1 year on from the London Bridge terror attack that killed 8 people and injured dozens more. William Buick Reading Massa celebrates crossing the line and winning the Investec Derby race on Derby Day at Epsom Downs. Traffic passes anti-Brexit signs on the County Derry/Londonderry, Northern Ireland and County Donegal in the Irish Republic. Northern Ireland could be given joint EU and UK status and a buffer zone on its border with the Republic, under new plans being drawn up by David Davis, according to reports. Eleanor Crossy-Malone displays an abortion pill packet after taking a pill as abortion rights campaign group Rosa, Reproductive Rights Against Oppression, Sexism and Austerity distribute abortion pills from a touring bus in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Flouting Northern Irish governmental laws which forbid the use of abortion pills, the group are also protesting outside offices belonging to the main political parties in the province. Women in Northern Ireland have been prosecuted for buying abortion pills over the internet, and it is illegal for a woman to have an abortion unless in special circumstances, unlike the rest of the United Kingdom. The Republic of Ireland voted in favour of pro-choice last week in a referendum. West Midlands police officers carrying out scene searches near to where a 15-year-old boy was fatally stabbed in Wolverhampton. A view at Westminster Abbey from the medieval Triforium that is hosting an exhibition in London. The Queen's Diamond Jubilee Galleries, set more than 16 metres, 52 feet, above the Abbey floor in the medieval Triforium, will open to the public for the first time on June 11, displaying over 300 treasures from the Abbey's collection which will tell the rich 1,000-year history of the institution at Westminster Abbey. people enjoy the hot weather on Bournemouth Beach during Bank Holiday Monday in Dorset. Chris Ashton of the Barbarians scores against England at Twickenham. Lightning strikes over the City of London. Rory McIlroy took the clubhouse lead into round 3 of the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth. Alistair Cook batting against Pakistan during the first Test match of the summer at Lord's Cricket Ground, London. Home Secretary Sajid Javid speaking at the annual conference of the Police Federation of England and Wales at the International Convention Centre in Birmingham. Felix, too, sits next to messages and flowers left in Manchester, ahead of the Manchester Arena National Service of Commemoration at Manchester Cathedral to mark 1 year since the Manchester attack. Marcio and Andrea Gomez, parents of Logan Gomez, arrive for a commemoration hearing at the opening of the inquiry into the Grenfell Tower disaster, in London. Brackley Town celebrate after winning the Build-based FA Trophy final after they beat Bromley on penalties at Wembley Stadium. Actress Meghan Markle reaches Prince Harry at the altar in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle for their wedding service. Workers from the Covent Garden branch of TGI Fridays on a picket line outside the restaurant as they strike in a dispute over pay. Members of Unite are taking action on Friday in a row over tips and payment of the minimum wage. A police officer talks to a homeless man in Windsor ahead of the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Wing Commander John Butcher, commanding officer of 617th Squadron, left, jokes with Britain's last surviving dambuster, Squadron leader George John E. Johnson, during an event to mark the 75th anniversary of the dambusters' raids at RAF Coningsby. The Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight was hoping to fly one of the 2 remaining Avro Lancaster bombers over the Derwent and Lady Bower reservoirs, but high winds prevented the aircraft from taking off. 2018 marks the 100th anniversary of the formation of the RAF and the 75th anniversary of the 617th Squadron Dambusters operation. The Dambuster Raids, Operation Chastise, was an attack on German dams on 17 May 1943 by Royal Air Force No. 617th Squadron, using an innovative bouncing bomb, which skimmed on the surface of the reservoir before hitting the dam wall and exploding. President of Turkey Recep Tayyip Erdogan speaks as British Prime Minister Theresa May listens during a press conference after their meeting at 10 Downing Street. Erdogan is in the UK for a 3-day visit, which includes a closing lecture at the Tat Lidl Forum in Oxford, an audience with the Queen and talks with Theresa May. The funeral cortege of Alfie Evans goes past Everton's Goodison Park ground in Liverpool. Doctors at Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool stopped providing life support treatment to Alfie last month after his parents, Tom Evans and Kate James, lost 2 rounds of fights in the High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court and European Court of Human Rights. Daisy May Cooper, the winner of the Female in a Comedy Award for this country, with her BAFTA. Thousands of union members marched through central London demanding a new deal for workers, in an event organised by the Trades Union Congress, TUC. Jeremy Corbyn with shipbuilding apprentices at the Fairfield Shipbuilding Museum in Govan. During a speech he called for Navy shipbuilding contracts to stay in the UK. Dominic Chilcott, right. British ambassador in Turkey, hands over a letter of apology from the UK government to Libyan dissident Abdul Hakim Belaj, at the British consulate, in Istanbul. Abdul Hakim Belaj and his wife, Fatima Boudka, allege they were detained in Southeast Asia in 2004 and sent to Libya to be interrogated by the regime of late dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Britain acknowledged Thursday that its intelligence agents played a role in the kidnapping and torture of an opponent of the late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, a rare admission of wrongdoing by British spies. The coffin of former House of Commons Speaker Lord Michael Martin, followed by his widow Mary, is carried from St Aloysius in Glasgow after his funeral. The former Labour MP died on Sunday, April 29, after a short illness at the age of 72. Mayor of London Sadiq Khan and Labour MP Heidi Alexander. Ms Alexander is standing down from Parliament after being confirmed as London's Deputy Mayor for Transport, replacing current Deputy Mayor Val Shawcross. Arsene Wenger bids farewell to Arsenal Football Club and the stadium he helped to build in more ways than one. It was Wenger's final home game of after 22 years in charge. Arsenal sent him off with a 5-0 victory over Burnley. Manchester City celebrate with the trophy after winning the Premier League title. Anti-independence supporters wave Union Jack flags as thousands of demonstrators march in support of Scottish independence through the streets of Glasgow. Prime Minister Theresa May with her supporters during a visit to Wandsworth Town Hall, where the Conservative Party retained control of Wandsworth Council in the local elections. Jeremy Corbyn outside a polling station in Islington after voting in the local elections. A memorial to George Michael outside his house in Highgate, North London. George Michael's family have since asked fans to remove their tributes from outside the late singer's former homes for the sake of his neighbours. Lester Morrisman during May Day celebrations at Bradgate Park in Newtown, Linford, Leicestershire. Sajid Javid outside the Home Office in Westminster after he was appointed as the new Home Secretary. Celtic celebrate after winning. They confirmed winning the Scottish Premiership by beating rivals Rangers 5-0 at Celtic Park. People release balloons outside Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool, following the death on Saturday morning of Alfie Evans, who was being treated at the hospital. The 23-month-old died at 2:30 a.m., parents Kate James and Thomas Evans said on Facebook. The youngster was at the center of a legal battle over his treatment that touched hearts around the world. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, right, speaks with British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, left, and Belgian Foreign Minister Didier Reynders, centre, during a meeting of the North Atlantic Council at NATO headquarters in Brussels. NATO held its last major meeting in its old headquarters, with talks focused on strained ties with Russia, a fresh peace effort in Afghanistan and a new training mission for Iraq. A protester wearing a mask depicting Facebook's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, flanked by two protesters wearing angry emoji masks protest outside Portcullis House in central London. Facebook's CTO Mike Schroepfer appeared in front of British members of Parliament on the Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Select Committee in the wake of allegations that information on millions of its users was misused. Members of the military work in the Maltings shopping area, close to the bench where Russian former double agent Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were found critically ill 7 weeks ago. The area around the bench where the couple collapsed is one of 9 sites to be cleaned in an operation that is likely to take several months. A statue in honor of the first female suffragette Millicent Fawcett is unveiled as Prime Minister Theresa May and Mayor of London Sadiq Khan look on during a ceremony in Parliament Square. The statue of women's suffrage leader Millicent Fawcett is the first monument of a woman and the first designed by a woman, Turner Prize-winning artist Gillian Waring OBE, to take a place in Parliament Square. Prince William arrives at the Lindo wing of St Mary's Hospital with his children Prince George and Princess Charlotte after his wife Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, gave birth to a son. Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge crosses the finish line to win the men's elite race at the London Marathon 2018. Team England athletes during the Commonwealth Games Team England parade in Victoria Square, Birmingham. Varun Chopra of Essex during the Specsavers County Championship Division 1 match between Essex and Lancashire at the Chelmsford County Cricket Ground. The game is being played in the warmest April temperatures in 70 years. Professor Sturgis carried out the inquiry into why the opinion polls got it wrong in the previous election. In 2015 they suggested a hung parliament and we got a Conservative majority, the opposite of 2017. There hasn't been the same post-mortem this time, partly because the reasons for the error are more obvious, so the House of Lords report has been the focus for debate instead. The Lords' inquiry, chaired by David Lipsey, allowed politicians to let off steam. The report expresses their frustration at the way the polls dominated election coverage. This meant, for example, that as Jeremy Corbyn was given no chance, his policies were not subjected to same level of scrutiny as Theresa May's. The report also served a purpose in coming out against a ban on opinion polls before elections. This would be the wrong way to respond to the frustration. As Joe Wyman, the former YouGov director who has set up a new outfit called Delta Poll, told the conference, "I would love it, absolutely love it. Pollsters like me would be rich. If polls were banned then the elite would have the information, while the poor would have rumors. It would be impossible to prevent polls being carried out, so a ban on publication would mean hedge funds would move the markets on secret information." That was why France, which used to ban polls in the fortnight before elections, cut its ban to 24 hours. Lord Lipsey's report wisely concluded that education and openness is the way forward. It is hard, because polls will always influence journalists. We ought to try to reflect uncertainty better, but it goes against human nature. We know we shouldn't pay more attention to an outlier than to a boring poll that shows no change, but people are interested in drama and the horse race. This is not a conspiracy by the mainstream media, because the same thing happens on social media. Last week Remainers were more likely to share a YouGov poll showing a 7-point lead for Ireland to leave the EU overnight than they were to share this week's poll showing them neck and neck. But we journalists need to try harder to prevent assumptions about the horse race from dictating coverage. In 2017, for instance, Corbyn should have been asked tougher questions about how he would have dealt with the Scottish National Party in a truly hung parliament. We also need to try to understand better how opinion polls work. So I took part in a second attempt to learn the lessons of 2017 this week, by reading Anthony Wells's excellent summary of why the polls got it wrong. In short, the polls got it wrong in 2017 because they got it wrong in 2015. The pollsters overcorrected and got it wrong in the opposite direction. The main cause of the error in 2015, Professor Sturges found, was that samples had become unrepresentative. The pollsters tried to fix the problem, and, after the 2017 election, we found that they had succeeded. If they had left it at that, they would have got the result roughly right before the election. However, they could not be sure, so most pollsters made further adjustments to try to predict turnout. Better, that wasn't a big problem in 2015, but it was something that threw the polls out in the 2016 referendum. But you can never know until after the votes have been counted. This is particularly true of innovations. The great success of the 2017 election was YouGov's model, a constituency-level projection based on a large sample. It suggested a hung parliament, as indeed YouGov's conventional poll would have done if it hadn't been adjusted. Record number of voters think decision to leave EU is wrong. When it came to polling day, YouGov's bosses, including Joe Twyman, didn't believe their new model and chose to be judged on their adjusted, normal poll. And got it wrong, as everyone else did except Survation. Herein lies the great danger for next time. At the next election, everyone will want a model like YouGov's. But we simply don't know if it will perform as well a second time. Lord Ashcroft last year had a model built on similar principles to YouGov's and it showed a Tory majority of 60. In the end, pollsters and journalists will always be fighting the previous election while politics moves on. We ought to be striving constantly to get it right, but in the end we should expect elections to surprise us. There would be something terribly wrong if we could predict perfectly how people will behave.